Hey friends, now that Sir has sold this weapon, you're gonna see everyone and their mother use it in the Crucible, and I thought I would help you all by giving a detailed review and analysis of this weapon, along with tips on how to wreck with this weapon and how to avoid being wrecked by this weapon. Just as a note, I am going to go over this weapon extensively, so naturally, this review is going to be lengthy. If you don't have the time, just skip to the last minute or two. If you do have the time, stick with me as I'm going to go over some great tips on using this weapon and countering this weapon. So instead of reading all the perks and stats to you as if you were an idiot, I trust your ability to read, and will instead go over the notable perks and stats. First off, it has its own goddamn archetype, which allows you to do a couple of things. The impact is high enough that you can comfortably two-burst people, while the fire rate is high enough that you can easily score follow-up shots and even challenge the Vex Mythic class in terms of time to kill. Also, the deep magazine of 27 wheels allow you to tackle a group of people in PvP without reloading and tackle tier 2 enemies and majors in PvE. Let's talk about ballistics. In both PvP and PvE, the correct choice is the aggressive ballistics. The range and stability are deceptively high, and the more predictable recoil makes the gun shoot straight up so that you can just pull down on your right thumbstick just slightly and keep scoring criticals. Also in PvP, it raises your damage from 34 for headshot to 36, allowing you to score 2 burst kills even with the body shot mixed in. In PvE, it generally means 1 less bullet to kill an enemy, depending on the type. On to the unflinching perk and the second trio perks. I really see only high caliber rounds being useful. That's not a problem though, because high caliber rounds is really helpful when combined with unflinching. These perks have a hilarious effect of your enemies flinching all over the place and not being able to hit you, while you can keep firing even when the others are shooting at you. This is very useful and very noticeable in both PvP and PvE. And now for the namesake perk, Red Death. It says it speeds up reloads and heals you, but what it actually allows you to do is to allow you to be really aggressive and bite off bigger chunks of enemies than you normally would. In PvP, you heal right back up after a close gunfight and are in equal ground on the next gunfight. In PvE, you just fight a group of mobs, take it like a man and keep killing one at a time and emerge victorious. One thing about healing perk is that it gives you a small amount of health and starts health regeneration, so even if you keep getting shot at where the Suros user would have been screwed, you can keep firing without stopping for cover. Seriously, if you thought Suros health regen was ridiculous, you're gonna hate Red Death in Crucible. Before I move on to this weapon in PvP, let's talk about PvE. Is it worth the exotic slot? If you're gonna use it to focus on mobs, then yeah. Choosing Red Death over other exotics becomes easier if you have a solid legendary, secondary, and a heavy. Since Red Death is excellent in mid-range and most of the gunfight in PvP is mid to long range, I recommend picking up a sniper and a tracking rocket launcher. Why use Red Death over other legendary pulse rifles or Vaporbringer, which is undoubtedly the king of mobbing? Well, first, it definitely has its place in Crota Raid at the boss fight because the constant health regen is really useful, especially if you don't have an armor that allows you to regen health when you pick up an orb. I always get irritated when people use Suros in hard mode, but now they have no reason to use the Red Death over the Suros now that Zeri sold it. It also has its place on encounters where you need as low downtime as possible. The increased reload speed paired with health regen allows you to bring down a big group of strong mobs without dying and without having to take cover, which is what the other weapons cannot do. Now, one thing to note is that despite the relatively high impact, it's still a pulse rifle, and you shoot many more bullets than hand cannons or scout rifles, so it's easy for others to steal your kill. This is a big problem when using this weapon because it's built around the kill buff, and you need the kill buffs to rise above others and use this weapon effectively. So always kill one at a time and focus on finishing off the enemies. Now let's talk about PvP. One thing to note is that while this is a very strong weapon and is likely going to be the next Suros, your KD won't automatically rise and actually require some skills to get some mileage out of this weapon. It's not like the Suros where you just hold down R2 and win. And as I'm mediocre in PvP and only get 1 or maybe 2 kills per life, I don't have a solid footage of this gun in action, but all my points about encounters and gunfights still stand. In a fair 1v1 gunfight in mid-range, Red Death will win almost every time. In an unfair 1v2 or even 1v3 gunfight, you can emerge victorious if you focus on one enemy at a time. Seriously, you need those kill buffs to be effective. You also need to pick your fight carefully. Ideally, you want your engagements to be at mid-range where the shotguns and high fire rate weapons can get you. So don't go running around corners where you will be at a disadvantage. If you have Gunslinger's Trance, you can tackle enemies from even further away. Now, when Iron Banner comes back, the relative ease of use, the ridiculously low time to kill, the deceptively long range, and the fact that Sergio sold it will mean that you're gonna see a lot of Red Death in PvP, at least for this and next week. And since I gave tips on how to be effective with Red Death, it's only fair for me to give tips on how to beat him. First off, if you want to beat Red Death in firepower and win 1v1 gunfights, unfortunately there's no ace in the hole that really does the trick. And your best cure to the Red Death infestation is to bring out the big guns, like Thorn, The Last Word, Vex Class, and if you're on PlayStation, your Hawkmoon. The common denominator for these weapons is the short time to kill, and you honestly need to bring powerful guns to combat Red Death. Also, since the pulse rifles shoot 3 bullets in a burst with vertical recoil, the best counter to pulse rifles in general, not just Red Death, is to strafe. Seriously, it works. It's considerably harder to track and land shots on a target that's moving left and right than it would be using, say, auto rifles or hand cannons. One last thing, stay out of the Red Death's comfort zone if you want to stop dying from it. Stay indoors. Snipe from really far away. Blink shotgun them in the face, using corners and doors to your advantage. That's one of the better ways to beat Red Death. And of course, if you can't beat him, you gotta join him. So in summary, Red Death is a very solid gun, low TTK, high DPS, good for tackling groups and surviving encounters that you shouldn't. This gets an S rank in PvP and A rank in PvE. I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next exotic review, which will be one of the cures to the Red Death I mentioned earlier.